The sun was setting behind the gas station, painting the sky in streaks of gold and rust. It was one of those evenings that looked peaceful until you looked closer. A woman in her 30s, Anna, stood by pump 3, her hands trembling slightly as she filled her car. Her little boy sat in the back seat, a coloring book on his lap, humming to himself. She smiled at him through the glass, but her eyes darted toward the edge of the lot where trouble was brewing. 3 men leaned against an old pickup by the convenience store, their voices loud, laughter ugly. They'd been watching her since she pulled in. One of them lit a cigarette, eyes narrow and lazy. "Nice car," he called. She kept her head down, pretending not to hear. "Hey, I'm talking to you," another shouted. He took a few steps forward, swaggering like the asphalt belonged to him. Anna's hand tightened around the nozzle. "Just leave me alone," she said, voice low. He grinned. "Come on, don't be like that. Pretty woman like you shouldn't be alone out here." The other 2 started moving closer. Her pulse raced. She reached for the pump handle, fumbling to pull it out, but one of them stepped in front of her. "You got a name, sweetheart?" "Yeah," said a voice behind him, low and calm. "It's Leave Her Alone." The man turned, startled. A single motorcycle had pulled into the station, engine still rumbling. The rider wore a black vest, his face shadowed by the sunset. He cut the engine, swung one leg over, and stood. "You boys having fun?" The 3 thugs laughed, though uneasily. "Mind your own business, old man," the first one said. The biker took a step closer, the corner of his mouth curling into something that wasn't quite a smile. "I was, until I saw you bothering someone who didn't ask for your attention. Look, man." He raised a hand and whistled. The sound sliced through the air, echoing off the concrete. Then the rumble started. Engines, deep, rolling, countless. From down the road came a wave of headlights, one after another, until the entire horizon shimmered with chrome and steel. Within moments, 24 bikers filled the lot, surrounding the gas station in a slow, steady circle. The logo on their jackets caught the light, the Iron Shields MC. The 3 men froze. The laughter died in their throats. The first thug tried to speak, but his voice cracked. We were just talking." The leader of the group, a tall man with gray in his beard and calm eyes, stepped off his bike. "Talking's fine," he said evenly. "Threatening's not." Anna stood frozen, one hand still gripping the pump. The bikers didn't look at her. They didn't crowd or stare. They just stood, silent, unified, a wall of engines and purpose between her and danger. The leader looked at the men. "You got 2 options," he said quietly. "You leave now, or we explain to you what respect means." They left. Fast. The truck tires squealed as they sped away, the sound vanishing into the distance. For a moment, the lot was still except for the slow thrum of idling motorcycles. The leader turned to Anna. "You all right, ma'am?" She nodded, voice shaking. "Why, yeah. Thank you." He gave a faint smile. "No thanks needed. We don't like bullies." One of the younger bikers walked over to her car, crouching down to check the tires. "You got a slow leak on the back left," he said. "Could be dangerous on the highway." Anna blinked. "I didn't even notice." He pulled out a small repair kit from his saddlebag. "We got you." They patched it, cleaned her windshield, even filled her tank while she stood there trying to make sense of it all. Her son pressed his face against the car window, wide-eyed. "Mommy," he whispered, "are those superheroes?" She smiled weakly, wiping her eyes. "Something like that." When they were done, the leader gave her a small card. It had the Iron Shield's emblem printed on one side and a phone number on the other. "If anyone ever gives you trouble," he said, "call this. Day or night. Someone will show up." She took it, holding it like something precious. "I don't know how to thank you." He shook his head. "Just pay it forward. That's how this works." As she drove off, her rearview mirror filled with the sight of engines lined up in the fading sunlight, silent, watchful, unmoving until she was safely on the road. Then, one by one, they mounted their bikes and rolled out, the sound of thunder following her down the highway. By morning, everyone in town had heard about it. No one knew who called the Iron Shields or how they'd arrived so fast. But from that day on, the gas station got a new reputation. Trouble stopped visiting. And sometimes, when the night was quiet, the locals swore they could hear motorcycles in the distance. Not near, not far, just enough to remind everyone that somewhere out there, justice still rode on 2 wheels. 2 nights later, the story had already spread through every corner of town, whispered at diners, gas stations, and bars. Some people didn't believe it. Bikers saving a woman? It sounded like a myth. But those who had seen it, who had heard the roar of those engines that night, knew it wasn't a rumor. For Anna, though, it was still surreal. She hadn't slept much since. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the men's faces, their sneers turning into fear, the wall of headlights rising behind the bikers like an army of angels dressed in black leather. The image was burned into her memory. But so was something else, the quiet, steady voice of the biker who had handed her that card. She kept it on her kitchen counter. Every time she walked past it, she felt safer. That week, she returned to her routine, dropping her son, Luke, off at school, picking up late shifts at the diner, and trying to rebuild her calm. But one night, as she locked up after closing, she noticed a motorcycle parked under the streetlight. Her heart jumped, but the fear melted as soon as she saw who it was. The same biker, the one with the calm voice and gray in his beard. He nodded. Didn't mean to startle you. She smiled nervously. You didn't. I just didn't expect to see you again. He walked over, his boots quiet against the pavement. We keep an eye on the places where trouble starts. Make sure it doesn't come back. She looked at him for a moment. They haven't been around since that night. Good, he said simply. Then, after a pause, how's the boy? Luke's fine, she said softly. He drew a picture of all of you. Said you looked like guardians. He chuckled under his breath. We've been called worse. She tilted her head. You never told me your name. He hesitated, then smiled faintly. Most people just call me Bear. Bear, she repeated. That fits. He nodded toward her car. You driving home alone again? Yeah, it's just a few miles. I'll ride behind you, he said. Until you're there. She wanted to refuse, to say she didn't need protecting, but the truth was, his presence made her feel safer than she had in months. She nodded. All right. The road home was quiet, the headlights of her old sedan cutting through the darkness. In the rearview mirror, Bear's bike followed at a steady distance, his single headlight glowing like a silent promise. When she pulled into her driveway, he idled at the curb until she turned on her porch light and waved. Only then did he give a small nod and ride off. The next morning, she found something taped to her mailbox, a folded piece of paper with the Iron Shield's emblem and a note written in firm, block letters. Keep that light on. You're never alone anymore. Weeks passed. Anna started to notice the changes in town. The gas station where the attack had happened suddenly hired new staff, rough-looking men, but respectful. Every one of them wore a small metal pin shaped like a wheel with wings, the Iron Shield symbol. Trouble stopped showing up at night. Even the sheriff, who had once dismissed complaints about the gangs, started cooperating with them quietly. The Iron Shields weren't just a biker club anymore. They'd become something bigger, a network of protectors, watching from the edges, unseen but always near. One Friday, as Anna was closing the diner, a group of bikes pulled in. The sound wasn't frightening now. It was familiar, like a heartbeat she could recognize anywhere. Bear was at the front again, his men behind him. He stepped inside, pulled off his gloves, and nodded at her. You busy? He asked. She smiled. Not for you. He slid an envelope across the counter. We're opening a new place outside town. It's called the Haven Stop. Safe space for women, families, anyone needing a meal or a phone call. Figured you might want to help run it. She blinked. You want me to? He nodded. You've got heart. You know what fear feels like. That's the kind of person who should run a place like that. For the first time in months, tears filled her eyes. Not from pain this time, but gratitude. I don't know what to say. Bear's smile was small but real. Say yes. She did. And that's how the Iron Shield's newest refuge opened. A small roadside diner turned safe haven, run by the woman they once saved. The walls were painted warm, the lights always on, and a small plaque hung near the door. For every voice that was silenced, we ride. From then on, whenever engines echoed down the highway, no one in town felt fear anymore. They felt something different, something steady, because they all knew, wherever darkness gathered, the Iron Shields were only a roar away. A year passed, and the world around Anna looked nothing like the one she had known before. The gas station that once haunted her dreams was now just another stop on the way to the Haven Stop. Her diner, her safe space, her new beginning. The building stood just off Highway 17, painted white and gold, with rows of parked bikes glinting in the sun like a promise that no one would ever be hurt there again. The first time she unlocked those doors, she cried. Not because of fear this time, but because she could finally breathe. Inside, the place felt alive. A jukebox played soft country tunes in the corner, the smell of fresh coffee mixed with motor oil from the parking lot, and the walls were covered with photos, not of celebrities, but of people. Mothers, kids, mechanics, truckers, all of them smiling. All of them stories of someone who'd once needed a little protection and found it here. Bear kept his word. The Iron Shields came every week, sometimes for food, sometimes just to talk. They fixed things that broke, dropped off groceries for struggling families, and never once asked for thanks. They just showed up. One night, as rain drummed on the roof, Anna was wiping down the counter when Bear walked in, shaking the water off his jacket. He nodded to her with that familiar calm. "Heard business is good." She smiled. "Good? It's better than I ever imagined. Half the people who come here don't even know you all started this." He sat at the counter, his large hands curling around a steaming mug. "Doesn't matter who started it," he said. "What matters is that it keeps going." She studied him quietly. "You still watch the roads, don't you?" He nodded. "Every night." Something in his tone made her pause. "Bear, how many times have you done it? Saved someone like me?" He looked out the rain-streaked window. "More than I can count," he said softly. "Less than I wish we could." They sat in silence for a while. Outside, lightning cracked across the sky, and the low hum of thunder rolled in the distance. Then the door creaked open, and a young woman stumbled inside, soaked, shivering, eyes wide with fear. Anna was by her side instantly. Hey, it's okay," she said gently, wrapping her in a towel. The girl's voice trembled. They followed me. 2 guys. I didn't know where else to go." Bear stood slowly. His voice was low but steady. "Where?" "Old Service Road. Near the bridge." He didn't ask another question. Within seconds, his phone was out. "Brothers, roll out," he said quietly. Outside, the rain turned into a roar. Engines fired one by one, thunder joining thunder. The Iron Shields poured out of the darkness like a storm on 2 wheels. Anna watched from the doorway, her heart pounding. Bear met her eyes as he pulled on his helmet. "Keep her safe," he said. "I will," she whispered. Minutes later, the night lit up with headlights racing toward the bridge. Anna turned to the girl, who was still shaking. "You're safe here," she said softly. "You're not the first, and you won't be the last." The girl looked up through tears. "Who are they?" Anna smiled faintly. "People who don't let monsters win." An hour passed before the bikes returned. The rain had stopped. Bear was the last to walk in, water dripping from his jacket, his eyes calm again. "They won't bother her," he said simply. Anna nodded, relief flooding her. The girl ran to him, hugging him without a word. For a moment, he froze, then gently patted her shoulder. He looked around the diner, at the warm lights, the people who had come in from the storm, the smell of food and safety and peace. Then he said quietly, "You built something good here, Anna. You turned fear into shelter. You did what we could only start." She met his eyes, voice soft. "No, Bear. You taught me how." He smiled, a rare, quiet smile that said everything words couldn't, and walked back out into the rain. The rest of the Iron Shields followed, their engines rolling low and steady until the sound disappeared into the distance. That night, Anna stood outside the Haven stop and looked at the sky. The clouds were clearing, stars breaking through. The neon sign buzzed gently above her, warm, steady, unshakable. And when she heard the faint hum of motorcycles fading down the highway, she whispered to herself with a smile, "They're still out there." And everyone who'd ever been saved by the Iron Shields, every woman, every child, every person who'd once been afraid, knew that somewhere in the dark, those engines would always be waiting, roaring back to life whenever justice needed a ride. Months passed, and the Haven stop became more than just a diner. It became a landmark. Truckers planned their routes around it. Locals sent lost souls there. And for women escaping from pain, the place wasn't just a stop, it was a beginning. Anna still worked every morning, the same way she used to, except now she wasn't surviving. She was leading. Her son, Luke, had grown taller, and his drawings covered the walls behind the counter. Motorcycles, eagles, and a big heart that said, "Iron Shields equals heroes." But peace never lasted forever. It never did. One evening in late autumn, Anna was restocking shelves when Bear walked in looking different, more serious, the lines on his face deeper than usual. We need to talk, he said quietly. Her stomach tightened. What's wrong? He sat down, motioning for coffee. There's a new group passing through, outlaws. Not like us. They've been running women, stealing shipments, pushing fear everywhere they go. We tried to talk. Didn't work. Anna's hands went cold. Are they coming here? Not yet, Bear said. But they're close. She nodded slowly, understanding. What do you need? He looked up at her, eyes steady. A favor. If anything happens, if you see strangers you don't know, lock the doors, keep people inside, and call that number on the card. No questions, no hesitation. I still have it, she said softly. Always have. He gave a faint smile. Good. You've got more courage than half the men I know. That night, when the last customer left and the lights dimmed, Anna stood by the window staring out at the empty highway. The air felt thick, the kind that carries a warning you can't quite name. She told herself she was overreacting, turned off the neon sign, and went upstairs to put Luke to bed. But she woke to the sound of engines, not theirs. The roar was louder, harsher, uneven. She looked out the window and saw them. 6 bikes tearing up the gravel, headlights flashing, laughter echoing like something feral. They circled the diner once, then stopped. One of them kicked over a trash bin. Another smashed a bottle against the wall. Anna's heart slammed against her ribs. She grabbed her phone and dialed the number Bear had given her months ago. 1 ring. 2. Then a voice, calm and familiar. Anna. It's them, she whispered. They're here. Stay inside, Bear said. Lock the doors. Don't move. She hung up and turned the deadbolt. Luke stirred in the next room. Mom. It's okay, baby, she said, trying to steady her voice. We're fine. Just stay quiet. Outside, the outlaws started shouting, mocking voices cutting through the night. Heard this is where the biker's girl works. Come say hi. Her throat tightened. She crouched behind the counter, clutching Luke close. Then it happened. A distant sound, low, rolling, steady. Engines. But not the harsh growl of the strangers. This was deeper, smoother, familiar. The iron shields. The roar grew louder, closer, until the ground itself seemed to shake. The outlaws turned, confused. Then, from the darkness, headlights flooded the road, dozens of them. Chrome flashed like lightning as the iron shields poured in from every direction, forming a ring around the diner. Bear's bike stopped in front. He took off his helmet slowly, his eyes locked on the men outside. You made a mistake, he said, voice calm but cold. One of the outlaws sneered. You think we're scared of you? Bear nodded once. You should be. Before another word could be said, the rest of the shields cut their engines and dismounted, stepping forward as one. The sound of boots on gravel replaced the noise. It wasn't chaos, it was order. Quiet power. The outlaws looked around, realizing they were surrounded. Bear stepped closer, his voice low. You don't touch this place. You don't touch any place. You ride out of this county, and you don't come back. The leader spat on the ground. Or what? Bear leaned in, his tone like steel. Or the road will remember you. The standoff lasted only seconds before the outlaws broke. One revved his engine, another cursed, and then they turned, spinning their bikes and tearing off down the road, swallowed by the dark. The moment they were gone, Bear exhaled slowly and turned to the diner. Anna was standing by the door, trembling, Luke in her arms. He walked up and placed a hand against the glass. You all right? She nodded weakly. You got here so fast. He smiled faintly. We never left. The rest of the shield stayed until sunrise, parked in a silent watch around the Haven stop, the air filled with the smell of rain and oil and safety. When morning came, the sun spilled across the lot, catching the words on the diner's sign, No one stands alone. Bear turned to his crew. Let's roll. Anna stepped out as they mounted their bikes. Bear, she called. He looked back. She smiled through tears. Thank you. He gave her that same calm nod. Don't thank us. Just keep the light on. And then, with one last rumble of engines, the iron shields disappeared into the horizon again. Ghosts of the highway, guardians of the forgotten. From that day on, every traveler who passed the Haven stop said the same thing. The coffee was always hot, the lights were always on, and the road outside always hummed softly at night. Like somewhere, just beyond the bend, justice was still riding.